This was far too spontaneous. This is something I just very suddenly realized that I kind of wanted to do before the month of spooky is over. So I don't have a whole lot planned out. I downloaded 2 cards that were sort of Halloween themed that I found in the thread. One of them is Rainbow Factory Dash, and the other is just a more general Nightmare Night setting that is right here, that has a bunch of scenarios set up. Let's go, we're Pinkamena. Unfortunately, I don't think there is a Pinkamena card. Or actually, I'm sure there is. There has to be a Pinkamena card. Time to visit Rainbow Factory ID and have chat go completely silent if she makes an advance. I think GPT-4o is going to be a little bit better about not making every single character overly horny, hopefully. 10 viewers, your vote counts, BGM. If I had to vote, I'd probably go for Rainbow Factory Dash, and considering it's been a minute and this hasn't changed, I guess we'll go with that. So, let us begin. Rainbow laid atop a puffy cloud floating above Ponyville, sprawled out lazily. To anyone else, it looked like she was napping, but she was far too awake, mentally preparing to go to work when today's Cloudsdale School's flight exams ended. It would be a long, gruesome flight. Her eyes scanned the surface idly, where she saw Anonymous. Eager for a distraction before having to get her hooves dirty, she leapt from the cloud and landed in front of Anonymous. "Sup, Anonymous? Doing anything awesome?" And that is where we begin. So, what do we say to Dash? Ask her what's that factory for. Is the factory nearby? It just says she's on a cloud over Ponyville. I'm not necessarily certain the factory is even nearby. How do you guys keep tying every single time? Tell her you know her secret. Alright, we are telling her we know the secret. Let's see, how do we lead into this? Nah, but I heard you got a gig at the Rainbow Factory, Dash. We're gonna die in 30 seconds, probably. We could just run with this. Nah, but I heard you got a gig at the Rainbow Factory. I also happen to know what really goes on there. What's your game? Let's just leave it at that. I just want to send something. I also happen to know what really goes on there. What's your game? Rainbow Dash's eyes narrowed, her usual bravado dropping to reveal a cold, calculating side. "You must be pulling my tail," Dash snarled, a flash of anger in her eyes. Her voice lowered to a whisper, firm but accusing. "You know even a hint about what really happened at the Rainbow Factory, then you've stumbled into something way over your head." The literal and metaphorical sense. Only a handful of ponies are aware of the truth. Most don't leave the factory to tell the tale, so before you start spitting out secrets around town, you might want to rethink what you're getting yourself into. She took a step closer to Anonymous, her shadow falling over him. "But she's short, she a pony. Loyalty to Cloudsdale comes above all else," she emphasized, her tone growing firmer. "But I ain't stupid. If you chatter about it, I'll have to figure out what to do next with you." Oh no, the consequences of our actions. The tension hung thick in the air, every moment feeling heavy, pregnant with possibilities as to how Rainbow would act if Nan didn't learn to shut those loose lips. Her gaze was unbreaking, the air still save for a single leaf blown by the wind off a nearby tree. "I'll keep my eye on you," Dash said simply as she pulled a fake grin you'd expect from someone that stepped in manure, masking her urgency as she backed away. So, Rainbow Dash has just threatened us. How do you want to proceed here? I mean, this was to be expected, right? Doesn't equestrian ponies operate in cartoon physics though? I imagine cartoon characters are hard to kill. Oh no. Why did we tell Dash this? What was the goal here? Hold on. Alright, how do we build on this? Someone else was saying blackmail, so I guess that's the goal that we can go for here. But also, she could just kill us. I don't know how much of a position of power we're in here. We're blackmailing Rainbow Dash to get her rainbow juices. If we manage to keep outside the factory, what could she do? She could just pick us up and take her there, probably. Or take us there, probably. Rainbow Dash is strong enough to take down 3 trees in one kick. She can also break the sound barrier. You really want to mess with her? Yeah, that's the question here, isn't it? Never recognize that exact string sample. That's distracting. Okay, whatever. If you do me a favor, hand on bargains. I'm crossing his arms. I want a job at the factory. I think that's enough. I don't think we need a whole lot more than that. And Rainbow's fake grin immediately vanished, replaced by a combination of disbelief and seething irritation. Her wings flared out instinctively, twitching with a barely contained impulse to fly into some kind of reckless abandon. You want what? She spat out the words, incredulous. You think I can just walk you into the factory? Like it's some kind of 9-to-5 weather gig? Her voice cracked up an octave with frustration. It was clear from the way her muscles tensed that every atom in her body was fighting the urge to buck Anonymous across Ponyville for having the gall to even suggest such a thing. Her mind raced ahead to the sheer absurdity of it. A human strolling into one of the most tightly kept, dangerous secrets of Equestria, the factory she herself was in charge of. Even most Pegasi would never grasp the dark layers of Cloudsdale's inner workings, let alone a ground-pounding alien with no wings, no magical connection to the skies, and almost no leverage. Let's say, she paused, her eyes boring into him, calculating. Let's say I got you in. Do you even get what you're asking for? She leaned in close, almost nose to nose. Ponies die in there. Real talk. If you aren't ready to have blood on your hooves, even if you're no Pegasus, you will end up as a disposable pile of meat ground into some hidden corner where no one even wonders where you went. Her voice dropped to almost a growl. That's the best case scenario. There was a long pause, the weight of her words settling in as her magenta eyes drilled into Anon's. She took a calming breath, but her irritation rolled beneath the surface, barely held back. But if you're serious, real serious, she hissed with restrained malice, you'd better prove you're more useful taking orders than flapping those lips. We don't have room for dead weight. She slowly stepped back, letting that challenge sit heavy in the tense space between them. Clearly, this wasn't a negotiation he was going to walk away from untested. There would be consequences, probably brutal ones, but she didn't reject him outright. Not yet. Make your bucking choice, human, but you'll have to live with it if you survive. We want in? Alrighty. Let's see if we don't get ground up in a Pegasus device. About to toss some fillies into hell. We join only to destroy. Want to come inside the Rainbow Factory Rainbow Dash, but she's evil. Turn myself into her, I have cider. Oh no. I ask her if we can work 4 10s and weekends off are non-negotiable. Dash is an idiot for letting us in, unless she's just tricking us. We'll find out. Can't forget the dental health plan. I demand rights if I'm going to work in this factory. Pretty sure most of the workers there never leave. Like they live in the factory too, is from... I think that's part of the story anyways. We need to make her trust us. We join and then we unionize. Rights for the factory workers! Oh jeez. Of course I'm serious, Anon answers. I know I'm risking my neck to even ask. You think I'm fucking around? Rainbow Dash's expression hardened the moment Anonymous finished his response. She didn't flinch or blink, didn't even move for a solid beat. And bang, she laughed. A harsh, biting laugh, the sound of disbelief and cruel hilarity wrapped into one. It wasn't the Rainbow Dash her friend shared adventures with. This was something else. Something that belonged in a place behind locked doors, deep in Cloudsdale's shadows. You're serious, huh? She echoed, still laughing, but now with an edge, a razor-sharp edge. Well, alright then, Anon. Think you can play with the big leagues, huh? Risk it all for a one-way ticket to Tartarus? She flared a wing out, slapping the air and pacing a tight circle around him, her movements aggressive, animalistic. Her facade of calm was shattered. This was the Rainbow Dash who thrived on the adrenaline rush the rest of Equestria couldn't even dream of. Without waiting for a response, her voice dropped lower, quieter, coiled like a viper ready to strike. Tell you what, then. Meet me at the Cloudsdale's edge after dark, near the North Wind Tower. If you're really serious, I'll bring you in tonight. Her wings flapped hard, taking her a few hoof lengths into the air. And if you flake, don't expect to be walking free tomorrow. Her eyes flashed one last warning as she shot into the air, disappearing with breakneck speed into a mass of clouds overhead. The Rainbow Factory. Tonight. There was no turning back from this bed now. And it keeps going. The night crept swiftly across Ponyville. By the time Anon had made his way towards Cloudsdale's distant silhouette in the sky, everything seemed eerily still. Few Pegasi moved about. Those who did either flew quickly through the skies or disappeared into homes, shutting their doors tight. Cloudsdale shimmered faintly above. Anon reached the meeting point. The cold air bit against his skin, carrying the distant sound of wind howling through the vast, sprawling towers overhead. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, whump, Rainbow Dash landed silently in front of him. No more showboating, no more pretense. She was dressed in the shadowy, fully concealed uniform of the factory. Only her trademark magenta eyes remained visible, peering through the darkness of her pursuit. Blah. "You're late," she said. No room for jokes, no cocky remarks. She tilted her head slightly, motioning for him to follow. "No more messing around. This is your one chance to prove you can keep up." She turned sharply, making her way toward one of the higher altitude cloud layers. They were heading deep into the heart of the Cloudsdale, toward a place few ever saw up close. "We're walking on clouds!" It's Starlight to help us organize. Organize what? Oh, a union. "Hell no, we won't work. Rainbow is a big fat jerk." We arrive precisely when we're mean to. As they walked, the massive structure of the Rainbow Factory came into view ahead. Cold and industrial, the place loomed high above with multiple smokestacks and rolling pipes hissing with steam. The surrounding area was dead quiet. Every sound muted like cotton had been stuffed in Anon's ears. The only thing breaking were the faint, ominous hums of machinery that grew louder with every step. Rainbow cast him a sideways glance. "Final warning. Once we step through that door," she said, nodding to the giant metal gates ahead, "you're one of us. And if you screw this up, there's no way out." Thud. The factory gates hissed and groaned open before them. The acrid tang of chemicals, metal, and something deeper floated through the air as they stepped inside. The game had really begun. We'll just gloss over the fact that we had to walk on clouds to get here, but we have nothing to lose but our heads and color. We gotta kill Dash. Is Dash's birthday already? Because I really want to give her a cream pie. This is not a baking stream. Yeah, I guess best case or best thing to do here is just follow along. Anon follows closely behind, taking on the ominous machinery as Dash leads... Fucking hell. The ominous machinery as Dash leads him deeper into the facility. Vibrant glowing liquids of each color of the rainbow flow through glass and metal tubes, the product the facility produces. The Rainbow Factory's sterile corridors led nowhere good. Each step dragged Anonymous deeper into the belly of the beast. Just past the dull hum of the machinery, you could almost hear something else, faint, like an echo of misery, quickly smothered by the clanging of metal. Dash led her steps quick, purposeful, her gleaming magenta eyes slicing through the dimness of the factory. For once, no stupid quicks, no cocky smirks, just cold, utilitarian silence. They twisted through a few more halls, past rooms lined with screens and vacant-eyed workers hunched over consoles. Their attention never wavered from the screen showing the factory's darkest secrets. When she stopped at a pair of rusted metal doors, Dash's hoof tapped the sequence into the terminal, and with a shudder, the doors screeched open. The Pegasus Device. A juggernaut of twisted steel and glass stood like a monument to the grotesque science behind it, all the colors of the rainbow flowing violently through its thick tubes, the glow casting sharp, eerie shadows across the factory floor. It was loud here, deafening, leering blades, oversized vials, rotating gears, and the distant roars of steam all collided into a chaotic orchestra only the unfeeling automata could bear. And Dash, she barely flinched. A glance over her shoulder. "This is it," she muttered in barely a whisper, not bothering with flair or drama. She didn't need to. The horror sold itself. Suddenly, lights flared to life across the chamber. "Fresh stock incoming!" From a further end of the factory floor, two Pegasi workers started dragging something in, a young, gray-coated colt. His wings were undersides, crumpled against his sides, shaky legs kicking weakly against the steel as the workers tossed him toward one of the many platforms. He was young, just had his flight test, no doubt, and his eyes were wide and twitching, filled with horror that could ignite the bloodstream of any regular pony. A voice rose from somewhere amidst the chaos. "Another failure! We'll see what his colors give us." Dash's gaze hardened, not a flinch of guilt, not a shadow of hesitation. She turned to Anon, her voice almost casually drowned by the rumblings of the factory. "You want it in," she said, pointing to the trembling cold strapped to the machinery. "Now prove it. You help process this kid, or you're next." Damn. Her straightforwardness cut like ice, no ceremony, no stage setting. Yet behind those words there was observation, a hunter's look measuring a kill. The workers turned with deadened gaze towards Anonymous, waiting for a signal. The colt twisting on the platform was helpless, tears streaking down his cheeks, soaking his muzzle. His mouth moved wordlessly, choking out a weak, petulant whimper. That didn't matter in a place where sound itself was torn to ribbons by the ever-spinning machinery. The decision wasn't just about his survival. Rainbow Dash was watching. The facility itself was waiting to see if Anonymous would break. How far down the rabbit hole could he really fall? No going back. All right, ready to murder a filly, everyone? You wanted in the factory, right? I was questioning the logic of our request, but alas. No, hold for a second. Tell you what, I'm gonna give you all a moment to talk it out amongst yourselves and try to see if you can come up with anything other than murdering a filly to get us further in this story. So, pull the lever the wrong way and break it. Callan on that could lead to our death. This whole facility is meant to, kill those who are uncoordinated, turn them into rainbows. Rainbow Dash's page snapped with the soft, defeated creak of the lever as Anonymous's fingers tentatively fumbled with the controls. The machine, complex and cruel, sputtered and jolted under his clumsy commands, its cold steel belly stirring awake slowly under those unsure hands. Dash's eye twitched beneath the shadowed visor of her suit. The hum of the machine was like a grating buzz in her ear, amplified by the agonizing sluggishness of Anonymous's motions. Each second felt like a knife twisting deeper into her gut, frustration swelling until it felt impossible to hold back her next move anymore. "Oh, for fuck's sake!" she snapped, her voice as sharp as the crack of a thunderbolt splitting the air. Before anyone could react, Dash's scion hoof crashed down on the console with a brutal click-clack-click, her actions so fast they blurred into each other. Button slammed, levers thrust forward, and in half the time he'd spent simply trying to figure out the configuration, Dash had overridden the system in one vicious flurry. Instantly, the massive looming Pegasus device surged to life, gears grinding and roaring with a ferocity that sent shivers up through the floor. The tank feeding into the rainbow-hued conduits lit up with a sickening, vibrant glow as every single valve snapped open one by one. "Doesn't get more straightforward," Dashi barked, never once pulling her eyes from the struggling colt strapped to the device. His chest was heaving, and every breath was trembling harder than the last. I'm gonna turn this down more. The tang of hydraulic fluid interspersed with the cold, metallic scent of machinery filled the room as the young colt's terrified whimpers turned into high-pitched squeals that collided with the thunderous sounds of the Pegasus device. Blah. So yeah, she took over. Bzz, clunk. A searing flash of blue light spiraled violently through the machine's long outer tubes, wrapping upward in pulses of color as the first slice of it. Etheric power surged into motion. Colt's body twisted in agony, his wings uselessly flapping like he was trying to break free, but Dash's voice was ice cold. "Press the wrong bucking button, you... fucking hell. You press the wrong bucking button, you fry the whole system." She stepped closer, not to lend comfort, but because she wanted to see results. "Learn it fast." Spectra bled from the Colt with horrifying efficiency, his twisted spasms reflecting through the clear, glowing liquids. Layer by layer, his vibrant colors began to drain away like some gruesome artistic process. His blue eyes stretched wide, pupils shrinking into tiny points. One heartbeat, another. Now we press all the wrong buttons. Yeah, we should probably do something to stop this or something. Press the wrong button, you fry the whole system. Let's press the wrong buttons? Yeah, that seems like a good idea. And as the Pegasus device did its terrible duty, even the slightest residual hue of his former self was rent from his fur, from his mane, from his very being. The colors of the rainbow pumped through the tubes and up into the sky, slashing vats overhead, flowing like liquid energy, eventually to join the bands of light that would glitter in the skies. Another rainbow born from pain and death. The sound of the Colt's screams was abruptly extinguished by the relentless grind of machinery. There was nothing. His small limp body, drained of its vibrant flickers of life, slumped forward pale, translucent. And in a few moments it disappeared down the expulsion chute, unceremoniously dropped into the abyss below the machine. A mere tangent in the factory's endless mechanical cycle. Fuel for the next production. A footnote in history that no pony would ever bother to write. Yeah, Dash's gaze didn't waver. She stepped closer to Anon after a few seconds of that deafening silence, her breath low and steady. "You get it now?" She tilted her head back, toward the now quivering vats. Still so violently alive, despite the sudden hollow silence that filled the room. This place, there's nothing to mare. It's dark, my goodness. Yeah, not a pleasant place. You can't proceed with request, my ass. AI broke. Seems like it, yeah. Just gonna delete that last sentence. Where's Trixie when you need her? Alright, so we've just witnessed the Pegasus device in action. What do we do now? Turn the gears into teacups. Should we... I think the best option here would be to try to hide any horror first off, but then try to get from Dash what you definitely shouldn't do. Like basically ask her what the controls do and how to operate them. Because we can use that knowledge to hopefully mess with the machine. If the true goal of our venture was to ruin the machine, we have exactly the perfect opportunity now. Let's press all the wrong ones. Yeah. I feel like if we talk to Dash about it, we might be able to figure out what we can do that's irreversible. How do we feel about that as a way to go forward? Yeah, I get it. And on answers, if there's any regretness, so let's mask desperately. If I'm going to get better at this, I need to know how these controls work. He says, gesturing to the control panel. You said the whole rig could fry. You do the wrong thing. Don't you think I should know, I don't know, what to avoid? There we go. And is not wearing proper gear. Yeah, I'm sure it's fine. Rainbow Dash stared at the empty space where the Colt's body had been just moments ago. Her limp silhouette already part of the factory's daily grind. She sighed through her nose, still locking her magenta eyes onto the glowing pipes as the rainbow liquid pulsed upward. She didn't turn around when she started speaking, voice just loud enough over the factory's dying hum to reach Anonymous. Yeah, you're gonna need more than guts, that's for sure, she muttered under her breath, flicking her wing dismissively toward the control panel. A lot of new ponies think they can just come in here, take a life, and boom, they're in. Her tone sharpened, clicking mid-speech. But if you don't know how every damn piece of this machinery works, it's gonna chew you up faster than any of those kids we said scrabbling through the tests. Finally, Dash strutted back to the panel, her wings half spread in that tense predatory stance she always took when things were about to get real. This was no training exercise. This was a crash dive into the deep end. She reached the control panel, pressing her hoof to one of the blaring red buttons labeled with something too arcane for easy understanding. Immediately, the gear slowed to a lazy, sluggish turn. First of all, she practically spat, talking faster again, you touch the faulty emergency blowout button, everything fries. She said it calmly, unruffled but with the gravity of some pony who had seen what it looked like when it happened. Rainbow swung around to face Anon with a hoof pointing straight at his chest, forcing eye contact. So don't get cute. One hoof, or in your case, one bucking finger wrong, and you're flying straight into the next experiment. She didn't smile. The threat was genuine, cold. Dash wasn't about empty threats anymore, especially here. She knew this place better than any pony outside ever would. She trotted back to the side of the console, tracing a hoof over a couple of the buttons. Keep these on auto unless we get a live one. Then you're making split-second choices. But you'll mostly stick to speed control after extraction starts. See these? She knocked on the secondary panels, showing the strange glyphs of Pegasus outlines. Automation's your base setting, but this set here, manual sequencing, forcing color separation if the subject tries to, resist. Without ceremony, Dash slammed another lever forward, lighting up a massive arc of rainbow-hued electricity along the coil-lined tubes descending from the ceiling. The liquid beneath blazed, shooting white-hot light at an almost blinding level. You wanted to do this? Now I'm teaching you, and we don't stop until you don't mess up. Got it? And with that, from the steel-laden door behind them, a second groaning sound squealed through the rust-spotted hinges. More workers entered, dragging in another failure, though this one was slightly older than the first. No fool, but a young mare with a silver mane tangled with sweat and grime. She coughed weak, hoarse protests, her wings battered beyond recognition, twitching helplessly like they'd tried to escape when she couldn't. Dash barely looked at her. Not even a flicker of emotion broke through that cold wall she'd built as she pointed to the pony, now strapped into the device. Now do it right, she barked. You take control this time, and if you screw it up, well... There was a half laugh, a guttural like she was already picturing the aftermath. The gears whined back to full throttle, mechanical arms repositioning the mare onto the extraction platform. Anonymous was on the controls, and Dash stepped back, close enough to keep teaching, but far enough to make it clear he was officially on his own. The machine loomed again, its sharp electric hum dancing over the silence like a predator over prey, waiting. Do it. All right. This is your chance to, sabotage the machine if that's what you want to do. You also need an escape plan, though. Later, Tim. Have a good one. Thanks for stopping by. How likely is the average man to be able to beat Dash in a hand-to-hand fight? Pegasus have hollow, easy-to-break bones to be able to fly, and their wings' bases would be probably easy to break. You did kick through 3 very thick trees in a single kick. We need another distraction. Hypothetically speaking, of course. I think most people would be fucked fighting Dash, even if it wasn't for cartoon bullshit, honestly. I want to see ideas. What should we do here? Pull the wrong lever? Just see what happens? Try to sabotage the machine? My concern is that we're just going to immediately die if we just do that. Should we bolt for the exit? How we know how to blow up the machine, we don't know how to escape alive. That's the problem, certainly. If I recall from the original fanfic, like, the workers at the factory live in the factory. It's very rare that one of them sees the outside. Even those who survive rarely live to see the outside. Can I get a quick rundown of what has happened? Philly was sacrificed to the machine, to the Pegasus device. We were supposed to be the ones to do it, but we fumbled the controls and Rainbow Dash took over the operation. Now there is a mayor on the pedestal, or on the platform, and she wants us to activate the machine. But we did learn that there is a way to fuck the machine up by just hitting exactly the wrong controls, essentially. The faulty emergency blowout button. I imagine that's probably like some kind of self-cleaning mechanism or something to clear the pipes if something gets stuck. And it is apparently faulty at the moment, so if we press it, it might disable the machine for a little while. Did we do it? We killed a child. Rainbow killed a child. We almost killed a child. CI capable of giving us more details about the mayor without Dash scolding us for losing time. We can edit out any scolding if that's what we want to do. Yeah, we can probably get more details about the mayor. Let's see. I could probably just reread the description that's in here somewhere. What did it tell us about her? A young mare with a silver mane, tangled with sweat and grime. She coughed weak, hoarse protests, wings battered beyond recognition, twitching helplessly like she tried to escape when she couldn't. Yeah, basically all we know about her is she has a silver mane. Is the mare a cutie? Probably. Chances are high. We're in a flying factory on top of a clouded city. If the factory blows up, we have nowhere to run, so we simply fall. Yeah. We go as martyrs or we kill a mare. Yep, essentially. Yeah, it would probably be difficult to work out a rebellion here, flapping our arms like wings. We could also Deus Ex Machina ourselves. Like someone else said earlier, we can literally do whatever we want here. If we want to just, I don't know, introduce Glimmy to save our ass. The options are completely open, technically. Glim Glam save. Put Glimmy in the meat grinder. We're busting out of here. We could try. Is that what we want to do? I'll get a poll going and start writing down some options, I guess. The device. Destroy the device and escape. How did you acquire this model? It's OpenAI, it's GPT-4o, I believe. Turbo Latte. What we're running right now. Doubt Dash will care much for a guard pony's life. It's time for action. Pull the lever, kill the mayor, destroy the device, and escape. My idea was ignored. Oh, is this an idea that you said? I skipped over it. I assumed it was a sex thing. If a human goes in, the factory emits human-tainted rainbows. Celestia will know her lover the only human. Dash would be wise to tread lightly. That actually is a good point. Could try to argue from a position of power. If we want to be Celestia's boyfriend or whatever. Ooh, I like Carvel's idea. Ask for a bathroom break. The mare is a fully grown mare, not a filly. I think the best course of action would be to pretend we're going to saw her into smaller pieces, not put the machine at risk while looking for a way out. We do a Glimmy Ex Machina. That can be main concern for the hardware is Carvel's option, I'm gonna say. Just pissing the device, that's the yellow and the rainbows. Pretend we're gonna saw her into smaller pieces while looking for a way out. Yeah, I think this is the best way to put that in the 30 characters I get for the stupid poll system. Alright. Maybe another one of the factory workers also wants to escape. I'm sure one of them does, but is too scared to speak up. Trying in some outside assistance would be lovely for us. Okay, let's see. Why would we kill the mare? Mares are great. The mare could be the ally. That was my thinking with Carpel's suggestion. We try to get her out. Unionize. Pull the mayor's nope. Okay. So we're going with Carpel's suggestion then. Give me a hacksaw, she's not going in whole. Oh geez, okay. I think that could work. Really now, just toss her in, he asks, as if doing so is an obviously bad idea. From what I've read, the Pegasus Device is for fillies and colts. You toss a full-grown mare in there and something's gonna get jammed. And I'm sure as hell not gonna be the one to climb in the tubes and clear it out. Crosses his arms. Get me a hacksaw, she's not going in whole. Rainbow Dash's eyes flashed dangerously at Anonymous's smug protest. The words hacksaw and 5 minutes alone hung in the cold air like smoke, seeping into the deadly silence of the factory floor in the wake of the roaring machine. The mare, strapped to the steel device, trembled, her eyes wide with the raw terror of what she couldn't escape. But Dash? She was not entertained by this sudden idea. Oh, you've got an opinion now, Rainbow snapped, her teeth flashing in the dim light of the factory. Like you've done this enough times to know what's what? Her voice grew harsher, the cracked boom of pent-up frustration she'd been keeping barely contained since this whole twisted ride began. She took a step forward, shoving Anonymous hard in the chest with a hoof. Her wings flared out, her shadow stretching across the floor in the glow of the machines. Let me make this real clear. Her voice dropped to a growl, only audible over the hiss of the mechanical leviathan surrounding them. I don't care what you think you know. I'm teaching you to survive, not giving you a choice. The mare on the device groaned, her limbs pulling helplessly at the restraints. Rainbow nodded towards the struggling Pegasus, her lips curling to a snarl. It's not about who we put in, it's what we can take from them. Grown, fillies, colts, doesn't fucking matter. I don't care about some dumb rumor you picked up from whatever hole you crawled out of. The venom in her voice was raw, palpable enough to sting the eyes. Dash's hoof lifted, smacking the side of the machine with a hollow clang that made every other pony in the room straighten up. She eyed the trembling mare drawn toward the deadly apparatus, then flicked her magenta gaze back to Anon. You want to get creative? Fine. Her smile twisted into something feral, cold, and wicked. Quicker than a flash of lightning, Dash grabbed a small, worn-out toolbox off a nearby counter and kicked it toward him, watching it skid along the floor with a dull thud. It opened slightly, revealing a hacksaw lying beside a few pliers, screwdrivers, and other grim instruments used to deal with less cooperative recruits. You want 5 minutes alone with her? Dash raised an eyebrow, almost daring him with a sick glint in her eyes. Go right ahead. We don't back down from ideas here, so let's see how you handle it when the blood gets real on your hands. There was a malice in her voice now. A challenge. A crowd of silent workers stationed at nearby posts glanced at the situation unfolding, the tension spreading like electricity. No pony interfered. This was all part of the test. Only the cold mechanical hum of the unlucky mare's fate ticked relentlessly forward. Time's wasting, Dash hissed venomously, stepping back but never letting her gaze leave it on. Prove to me you aren't just talk, or step aside and let us finish this the real way. She wasn't going to stop him. If anything, she wanted to watch. And all the while, the massive terrible's Pegasus Device kept groaning, waiting to feast on the next sacrifice. The factory had no room for half measures. This Dash is a real something or other. Gotten real way too fast. Luffy on the Dash is not joking around. Yeah, this is Rainbow Factory Dash. She does this for a living. She needs to make sure we're not gonna chicken out. The mare is awake, right? How close is the toolbox? Many of the tools make for great makeshift weapons. Y'all fucked up. Now you fucked up. You have fucked up now. Free her with the saw. The mare's awake, but isn't in a good place to fight. Indeed. We asked for 5 minutes alone. Unfortunately, it seems like she's still watching us, which is problematic for the original plan this option was gonna lead into. We're so cooked. A little bit. Really need some plot armor right about now. This is what you wanted, wasn't it, Anonymous? To work at the Rainbow Factory? Kill the mare, Anonymous. If we sabotage the machine right now, Dash would be busy trying to get it fixed. This would allow us to either try to kill her or run and hide for time. That's a pretty big assumption. She might just try to murder us immediately for doing that. 5-pound mallet should render a pony not awake. Let's mention all the guard ponies. Are there guard ponies here? I know there's other workers. We got 5 minutes alone to craft anything we might need. I think she's still watching us, unfortunately. It says she stepped back but never let her gaze leave Anon. If anything, she wanted to watch. So yeah, I think she still has her eyes on us. Throw the toolbox down the device. Killing us would take precious seconds. Seconds where the machine would get worse and worse. That's true. Alright, what's the button? Emergency blowout button, which is faulty. Anon's eyes fall back to the control console. The next sacrifice lays strapped to the platform, unwillingly awaiting the machine's diabolical operations. Anon's eyes fall back to the control panel, to the button labeled emergency blowout, a faulty subsystem that would render the Pegasus Device out of commission. Gripping the hacksaw in his hand, Anon raises it above the restrained mare, then with a mighty swing he strikes, straight across her restraints, freeing her. Run, he says simply, before reaching over to the Pegasus Device control panel, smashing the emergency blowout button. And I guess we should probably dash for the exit alongside the other mare or something, right? We're not outspeeding Rainbow Dash. Danon woke up from the nightmare. Of course. What a bad dream. Attacking her as she's desperately trying to save the machine would give us a chance. Could keep our grip on the hacksaw at least, I guess. It's missing a one-liner. Alright, yeah, there should be a one-liner here. I don't know. All I can come up with is something cheesy like, looks like this factory's out of commission. But we need something more punny than that, I think. Just operating the machine naturally takes a lot of buttons and lever pulls that she can do it with naturally. Saving the machine would probably take a lot more. That's true. Alright, what's a good one-liner here?
I think I need some more practice. Sorry, I gotta leave this Rainbow Factory, but it seems I gotta dash. Sorry, but your operation's not getting off the ground today. Blow off some steam.
Rainbow Dash, I want to go outside.
Let's blow this popsicle stand.
Classic cheese. Rainbow.
Just ain't my style.
Could go for something like that, or
never liked rainbows anyway.
Duke Nukem moments. A little bit. That's how I imagine one-liners, the voice in.
The moment your fist slammed the emergency blowout, all hell broke loose. The Pegasus device, the moment your fist slammed the emergency blowout, all hell broke loose. The Pegasus device instantly gave a high-pitched, ear-splitting squeal, sparks surging and blasting from metal joints as lights along the walls started flashing red. Steam blew from every grate, plumes of dense white vapor clouding the factory in pure chaos. Tubes that once carried vibrant fluid hissed and popped, shattering with neon-colored liquid spilling all over the floor. But that was just the beginning. The gears screamed as the central core of the device overloaded. Violent shudders shivered through the metal flooring as sparks flew from the machinery overhead. The massive tanks feeding Spectra solution started to rumble ominously, groaning under the pressure of a sudden malfunction. The freed young mare, for a split second her wide, terrified eyes met yours in shock before the realization kicked in, and she bolted. Scrambling off the platform as if the hounds of Tartarus were on her heels, she vanished into the factory maze, flying through the blaring mist and arcing electrical bolts. But her fate? Still uncertain in this death trap. Dash spun like a tornado, snarling, her magenta eyes blazing with primal fury. The moment she realized what you'd done, any trace of the playful, cocky Rainbow Dash, the hero of Equestria, melted into the darkest part of her being. You traitor! Her voice went ragged with fury as she shot forward, wings beating the air with throttle. In the split second she was on you, no hesitation, no mercy. Her rage-fueled body slammed into your side full force. No graceful dodges here. No friendly competition banner. This was a full-on, no-holds-barred warrior of Cloudsdale about to rip you apart. Uh-oh. That's bad. Barely managed to stagger out a few feet before crashing against the now sparking equipment, her shadowy figure looming... Jeez, there's a lot of words. Looming over you like a monster on its way to finish the kill. She wasn't done. In Rainbow's current state, she'd chew you up and spit you out with no remorse if given the chance. But Rainbow had bigger problems to deal with. Through the flashes of raw electricity and the fire of her adrenaline-pumping rage, she heard the factory alarms blaring louder, pulsating, screeching across the towering walls. Damn it! She hissed under her breath, torn between springing after the runaway mare and dealing with a way bigger threat. You. Don't think you're getting out of this alive. Rainbow roared, her teeth bared as the workers scrambled, trying to regain control of the buck-wild mess you've caused. The factory was fighting to save itself. Ponies dashed toward control consoles, screaming commands that were swallowed by the chaos. Sirens blared and the warning lights bathed everything in a maddening crimson glow. Some likely realized there was no salvaging the system. Not before everything overheated. And Dash, in the inferno of her fury, she was diving straight after you, hacksaw in hand or out. She'd take you out of it if it killed her. Her wings surged with momentum, blazing a streak through the choking steam and malfunctioning blades. Every clockwork hinge threatened to explode around you both. But Rainbow Dash would not let you get away. Even with her blinding speed, things were unraveling faster than any pony could control, and her entire world was crashing apart, tearing apart. Crash! Somewhere, one of the Rainbow tanks finally gave way to the overwhelming pressure. Spraying volatile spectra all over the room, it ignited the moment the still arcing electricity connected, throwing an almost magical blast of blinding rainbow-hued fireball through the room. And that was only the first. Explosions began erupting everywhere. Machines blew apart, warning sirens doubled in intensity. The entire building seemed to be rumbling too, threatening to collapse bit by bit as the emergency systems failed, one after another. Dash just powered through the immediate explosion that almost knocked her off course. Her teeth grit, fury seeping through each beat of her wings. She locked onto you with the focus of a death-hungry beast. You think you can buck with the factory? She screamed, taking another step. A cage tornado of vengeance barely contained, the whole world coming apart around her. She roared forward toward you again, swinging fast for sight, an athlete, and killer unleashed. But time is running out for everyone. We gotta need another T for this one. BGM, I zoned out. TLDR, the factory is exploding and Dash is trying to kill us. Alright, we have limited time, we have the hacksaw, and the factory is exploding. What do? Do we run or fight? There are no winners, only different degrees of loss. There might still be a chance. Let's confess our love now. You don't understand, Dash. I just didn't know how to express my love. Alright, is this it? Are we fighting Dash? Let's do it. Rainbow Dash growled, her fury igniting far hotter than any of the fires licking at the factory around them. Her cyan form bucked like a wild storm beneath you, muscles coiled with raw, untapped aggression. The inferno painted her in wild, violent orgies of red, the reflection of flaming rainbow-hued liquid ghosting off her once proud wings, now pinned under your grip. A mistake. My fault? She screamed, the sound barely audible over the deafening explosion of another tank rupturing behind her. You think you're getting out of this life just because you tricked your way through a door? Her words dripped with venom, a primal force of rage as powerful as the hurricane brewing inside those magenta eyes. She spat with pure contempt the realization. Her fury, her failure, fueling the beast inside her, making every pulse of her body writhe and wanting to break you apart bone by bone. You kept her wings clasped, but that didn't stop her. Dash twisted hard, faster than you'd expect, taking your balance off kilter for less than a second. That was all she needed. That's lightning quick. She slammed her head backward, the blunt force of her skull smashing into your face with painful precision. It hit like butt and thunder. Stars burst in your vision, and the dizzy echo of it sent you reeling. She didn't give you a single second to recover. Before you could even blink through the pain, Rainbow Dash flipped under your grip, wings finally busting through with a violent slap of air as she threw you backward with the force of all of her athletic power. You rolled, the jagged ground biting into your skin as you hit the grating before stopping hard. You're dead, she roared, eyes blazing with the intensity of a megastorm in full fury. She didn't tire. Adrenaline coursed through her like a war goddess among mortals. Rainbow Dash never stopped moving. With a backflip, With a vicious backflip, Dash was airborne again, wings slicing through the air and her body looping through the fiery carnage of explosions erupting one after another in the backdrop. But her focus, a deadlock on you. She blitzed down like a comet, wings braced, teeth gritted with look of raw hate, ready to make you pay. You weren't a challenge for her speed, you weren't a match for her power. Blood spilled down your face, the taste of iron creeping into your mouth. You struggled to stand the carnage of Faxi collapsing around you. The blaring alarms, the swirling flames, their hissing liquids, rainbow falling in molten patches on the floor, turning this entire showdown into some surreal like hellscape. But none of that even mattered anymore. Dash was coming for you. Straight as an arrow, her hooves were almost touching down the second you got to your feet, but you knew Rainbow. She always went for direct hits when angry, incapable of anything else in this murderous state. High speed, same angles, hot-headed. Half a second, fist clenched, and searching through your battered body, you dodged. With a flap of wings too quick to see, Dash flew 20 feet past where you'd been just a split moment earlier, skidding against sparks and debris. She gnarled, wings already flapping back into action at hurricane speed, snapping upward into the air with the agility only a lifetime of training could pull off. Overhead pipes burst and machines keeled over in agony as the facility succumbed to malfunctions galore. Emergency lights blinked frantically, though that hadn't yet exploded. And Dash, she kicked off debris hanging from above, the device crumbling in the distance behind her as another kaboom sent parts of its structure crashing to the ground. Dash didn't give a flying feather about the factory anymore. No, she only cared about one thing. You can run, freak! She screamed, her voice wrecked with barely contained fury again. But once I catch you, I'm turning you into scrap! She circled wide for another dive, her form glowing against the backdrop of ember-filled clouds, wings sweltering in the furious chaos. Every ounce of Dash's bloodthirst focused singularly on ending you. Your thoughts raced. She was fast, relentless, and above all, furious beyond measure. But amidst the burning wreckage and firestorm of emotions, there's always something Dash forgets in situations like this. The gray-maned Marin unfreed strikes Rainbow in the back with a jagged piece of worn piping, collapsed from the factory's rapidly deteriorating state. One metal cuts into the flesh of Dash's wing, feathers sliced and cry of pain escaping her lips.
Like her wing is damaged, and doesn't hesitate, fucking hesitate to take advantage.
The jagged pipe struck deep, twisting metal tearing into the soft, downy feathers of Rainbow Dash's powerful wing. Her scream, guttural and raw, split through the inferno of exploding machinery and flickering emergency lights. It wasn't a cry of weakness, it was the sound of an animal wounded in her own element, trapped and more dangerous than ever. She pulls strength to pinpricks as the red-hot agony ripped through her wing muzzles, her lifeline sending jolts of electric pain down her side. Blood drilled downwards, splattering onto the metal floor as her wings faltered, one side caught in spasms. But rage, oh, that didn't fade. Dash spun in midair, her teeth gnashing together, eyes darting to catch sight of the filthy gray-maned mare the human had freed. You sneaky little scrap heap! Dash snarled, her voice mangled with not just pain but pure venom. Her attention split for only a heartbeat. Thump! Thwump! A solid kick collided with Rainbow's chest, forcing every ounce of air from her lungs in one brutal instant. Her signature speed, her cocky athleticism, all of it useless as her injured wing flailed in grotesque motion, unable to control her path. Time slowed in the world, tilting out from under her as her limbs careened motionless through the flaming air, straight back toward the towering mouth of the Pegasus Device. Whoosh, crack, grind. Flames spit wildly from the still belching fire of the malfunctioning internal grinders, gears turning behind the nearest funnel like the jaws of Tartarus itself. Metal twisted under her back as she slid, almost backwards into the horrifying teeth of the device. The shards of metal scraped at her hooves, smacking against her mane before her half-ruined wings extended on reflex, flapping desperately, trying to correct, her blue feathers catching on the edge of one ragged cylindrical spike jutting from the funnel. But that busted wing could only tremble weakly. Correct. A harrowing snick snaps echoed, a second scream exploding from Dash as her body tumbled down, painfully colliding with other pipes, gears, and godless rotating steel. Blood smeared from several new gashes across her coat, gripping madly along the path, but Dash, she wasn't dead yet. Grit, tenacity, adrenaline. She dug deep, clinging to what remained of the device's structure with everything she had. Beneath her, the blades, they chewed the ground. They trued and ground the air viciously, flashing deadly arcs of light below. She was on the edge of certain death, but she wouldn't give in. Her rest came short now, ragged, every heartbeat thundering in her ears as she fought the pain seizing her broken wing. But Rainbow Dash was a fighter more than anything else. Up above the grain-baned mare, panting, smeared with soot and streaks of sweat, stared in disbelief. Barely alive herself, she swiftly moved to the exit while you stood there, watching Dash lie so near to certain oblivion and writhing in real, tangible pain. Through the haze and flashing alarm, she grinned, spitting out traces of blood. Her teeth bared to the taste of metal again. Think you can throw me down the pit and call it a bucking day? I ain't done yet! Her voice carried, hoarse though it was, through the roaring hell of collapsing machinery. With agonizing effort, Dash crawled inch by inch back across the wreckage, fury boiling through every fiber of her athletic frame. One wrong move, one slip, and she'd be ground to a pulp. But Dash didn't make mistakes in high stakes like this. Not this far gone, not at her core. You think you're better than me? Huh? She screeched, fire blazing in her eyes, even though the tears that streaked from raw agony. She wouldn't let her rage die here, not in the jaws of a damned machine she'd broken with her own hoof. She glared up at you, that fire raging in her chest, taut as rope. Blood ran down her sides, her strength fading, but not her hate. As she neared the top, flames licking out her side like tongues of agony, she seemed to legit hang on a razor's edge. One slip up and she'd be done. It was all or nothing now. What the heck are you gonna do? Just kick her back down. Slap her down like Celestia's guards. I guess that's the option here, isn't it? She can't fly, right? We can outrun her. We could. I doubt she's just gonna turn back to normal, though. We could just end it here. I think that might be the best option. Like the idea of one last one-liner, too. Anon stares down over the flaming, grinding edge of the machine's maw with familiar coldness. One Dash knows she showed to her countless victims. Not hard to be better than a monster. With that, Hanon delivers one final kick to the hanging Pegasus, sending crazed Dash straight into the spitting saws and spitting flames of the Pegasus Device's disposal unit. Rainbow Dash was half on the edge, drenched in her own blood and sweat, somewhere between insane rage and the desire for pure survival. As long as she could still fight, she would. But the second your boot hit her chest again with righteous force, it didn't just knock her out of the air. It knocked everything away. Her head snapped back with a crack, and in that singular moment, the heart-stopping realization of raw helplessness slipping past her mind, and the last beat between muscle reflex and free fall. And everything came undone. Her body was flung backward into the gaping maw of the spinning saw, the destruction churning toward her as the fall of Tartarus had opened wide to claim her soul for the sins of the past. The Pegasus Device, still grinding and boiling hot with pressure failure, welcomed her the way it had torn through countless others at her command. Her last scream was drowned out by the roar of gnashing steel. She tumbled, a cascade of blue feathers, blood streaking through the air. crimson lighting up in violent broad strokes against the darkened machinery. Then came the gut-wrenching crunch. As her body collided with grinding gears, her sine wings shattered completely. The Pegasus Device chewed them into nothing but a blur of feathers and bone, sloshing into the flaming abyss underneath. There was no final act of defiance, no speech, just the unmaking of loyalty. Rip, spin, shred. What you witnessed wasn't the end of a hero, it was the absolute, brutal obliteration of a predator who had fallen into her own trap, destined to be crushed and ground under the same mechanical mercilessness she had overseen for so long. The machine didn't care. Rainbow Dash was nothing to it. Her body was swallowed by the Pegasus Device as easily as it had consumed the countless Pegasi before her. Cogs, blades, grindstones all working in twisted unison to turn her flesh into nothing more than oily colors spewing across the rainbow vats. The vomit of spectra that poured from the machine in her final moments. Bloody, disfigured shades of blue, red, and violent streaks of purples were her last gift to the system she glorified and embodied for so long. I do like GP240's writing style. Right now, it actually seems to be doing right. I thought it was a little bit positivity biased and it wouldn't actually do like dark writing like this, but apparently I was wrong. In the moments that followed, the grind of her bones and flesh being torn apart was enough to sicken even its hardest stomach. The machine churned on, indifferent as Rainbow Dash. Once the fastest and most fearless Pegasus to soar the equestrian skies was devoured. The scent of burnt feathers and raw meat was overpowering as parts of her began to slide from the farthest chute. Nothing more than unrecognizable remnants, not a hero anymore. The machinery, she wasn't Rainbow Dash, she was just another nameless failed Pegasus drowned in the relentless system of death she dedicated herself to. The malfunctioning factory finally began to sputter one last time, collapsing inward. Half the supporting structure groaning under the strain of its emergency blowout as pipes and tubes hissed and cracked, spilling iridescent sludge across the floor. You stand just ahead of the maw of that monster, panting, the hacksaw still cold in your hand. Behind you, the gray-maned mare, the one who dared strike Rainbow Dash, has collapsed, her legs quivering from the narrow escape, her wide eyes staring at the sight of Rainbow Dash's utterly savage end. She doesn't even look at you, too shell-shocked, having briefly faced the most feared Pegasus alive, and lived. The Pegasus Device, now spitting smoke and torn mechanical pieces, sputtered out its final verdict on her fate, the relentless war machine falling to pieces as you stood victorious in the smoldering aftermath. The factory was crumbling and Rainbow Dash was dead. No heroics, no redemption, just cold annihilation for a monster in her own damned creation. The legacy of loyalty was crumbled, shattered like the wings that once flew Equestria's skies, severed into jagged shards of bright blue feathers and bloody ruin. But the fires still burned, the echoes of destruction only barely held at bay. What now? Alright, I'm just gonna end this off. The moment you scream, the whole factory rumbles and this critical support structure begins to collapse. Anon knows there's not much time. Run, he shouts to the Pegasus, bolting for the exit as the factory devours itself. The moment Anonymous screams, the sound cuts through the collapsing world of Rainbow Factory, the apocalyptic destruction playing out in slow, malicious rhythm, seconds grinding down against the inevitable collapse. The factory doesn't whimper under its doom, it contests every inch. Gears spinning deathly arcs near your heels, structural beams creaking like a beast fighting until its last bloody breath. The gray-maned mare didn't need a second command, her hooves shaking just a heartbeat ago, and the shadow of Rainbow Dash's head suddenly snap into action. She stumbles forward, her weak, battered wings flapping just enough to give her speed as she runs, nearly slipping on the damp, viscous, rainbow liquid splattering the floor, but she pushes through. The ground beneath her and around you trembles fiercely, pieces of massive metal breaking free from the ceiling, plunging the factory floor with earth-shattering crashes. You bolt side by side, the cacophony of collapsing pipes and grinding gears surrounding you, echoing like the maw of some indifferent monster trying to drag you both under. As you book it for the exit, the fires around you only grow more intense. Scraps of rainbow-charged flames lick the air, crying with sickening hues of flickering green, red, and purple, making the ground beneath you spasm from the pressure above. Ahead, the last support beams are groaning, titanic in size, throbbing with tension, cutting the world into fever-pitched thunderous howls as the once dominating Pegasus production line is unmade, piece by tectonic piece. Steel, molten frameworks, even entire vats of spectra began to unhinge from their placements, sloshing volatile rainbow liquids across the ground. Chunks of machinery fall from overhead, crashing the engines from you with rattling impacts. Whomp, whomp. And you feel the heat skimming your neck. Your ankle barely skimming ahead as pipes clatter down, grinding hopelessly, sparks exploding like gunfire behind every misstep. Now's not the time for nerves. You tear through the crumbling factory, each breath pulling anger and adrenaline up through your throat. But you don't let it break you down. Not now. hunt for this one shot of survival on the table. The second blast from behind throws a surge of heat that licks your back as one more tank ruptures, the wall of fiery, rainbow-hued liquid exploding onto the floor, consuming part of the space you just bolted from. The chemical stench of something being burned beyond recognition fills the air. There's nothing left to save here. You slip just out of reach of a falling slab from overhead, the sheer weight of it crashing beside the mare who narrowly rolls away, her body almost moved by muscle memory alone. The exit so close you can practically see the burning outside wind through the factory gates, the world beyond not yet touched by the hell that just swallowed the Rainbow Dash whole. Just a few more feet. An entire support beam collapses right in front of you, dropping down and sealing between you and the final sprint to freedom. The floor vibrates from the sheer impact, throwing you backward for just a second. Behind you, the screams of the earth metal splitting apart are deafening, rising through technicolor flashes that seem to burn the air with oily rainbow-twisted smog. But even trapped, you look ahead and see a way through. The supports are only partially cut off. You can duck low, crawl beneath the tangled wreckage before it shuts the factory in on itself completely. Move! The mayor's voice rings frantic, hoarse with fear but alive, pressing hard. If you want to live, move! Your window is closing. Everything, the final pump of the factory, treading of what's left, all of it comes crashing down over the moment. This is it.
And then they get out and the factory explodes.
The two of you dash out of the final stretch of the factory's collapsing walls, leaping over, scrambling under, ducking through fire and sodden wreckage, and another inferno field blast splits the air, followed quickly by the violent crackle of collapsed Spectra tanks igniting in the distance. A storm of fire and chemicals tearing the walls and ceilings apart. You burst through the final smoke-choked threshold. Just as you throw yourself through the final opening and spill into the outside air with a ragged blast, the whole place goes nuclear behind you. Kaboom! The Rainbow Factory detonates in a violent crescendo, unleashing a glorious, overwhelming shockwave that throws both you and the Greymane mare to the ground. For an instant, the air is silence born from pure pressure, the sound rushing out of you in a furious roar of wind and shattered light. Suddenly, it all comes thundering back. The sky ignites, twisting neon fragments of spectra explode outward in massive arcs, painting something so tragically beautiful across the night air it almost distracts from the fact that the ground beneath your feet rumbles and cracks with the force of the shot wave. Patches of the factory collapse in on themselves, steel beams bending backwards, twisting through the air like broken limbs as support after support crashes down into endless rubble. A massive fireball of rainbow-painted flames bursts sky-high, launching debris across the distant skyline, each fragment catching fire as it spirals out into the dark heavens beyond. For just a breathless moment, the sky looks like it's raining crystallized destruction, a final glorious burst from the factory's smoldering tomb.
I kind of want to just leave it there. It's trying to turn it into Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm going to delete part of this. And it collapses on the cloud grounds. Panting to catch his breath, it's over. Emergency services rushed to the cloud grounds. Pegasus haphazardly fitting about in panic, disbelief, and banned for control. The Rainbow Factory had been obliterated. It lay there, a collapsed industrial monolith, belching acrid smoke into the sky. Twisted metal of what was once a place that held one of Cloudsdale's darkest secrets. Every Pegasus involved seemed half-focused, eyes snapping back to catch glimpses of what remained. Some tried to wrangle the flaming debris, while others, jaws slack with horror, just stood watching from afar, whispering urgently to each other. The sight etched against the burning skyline was haunting. You lie on the clouded ground, breaths heavy, the rage-fueled adrenaline that carried you through the carnage now gone. Body feels like lead, skin scraped raw, limbs too weak to do anything but lie there and taste the taste of blood copper taters through your mouth. Not far from you, the Greymane mare, she just stands there, shaking, haunted, her body trembling in fragile shock. Her eyes, once wide and terrified from the events that had consumed her, stared dumbly into the smoke rising from the ruins, each flicker contorted from within the half-flamed grays, reflecting back all the horrors she had nearly experienced inside. She's alive. That truth alone hangs silent between you and her. Wow, that was a really quick song. Okay. Throughout the entire city, news of the explosion rapidly extends like wildfire. Back in Cloudsdale, workers, students, officials, everybody immediately realizes something is very, very wrong. The sacred economic pulse sustaining all the weather production cycle blown to bucking smolders. It would take months, maybe years to rebuild if they even could. It's chaos inside Cloudsdale, whispers cutting through the normalcy like poisoned fangs, but no one fully understands yet the magnitude of the collapse. And then eyes. Not curious eyes of trained guardians used to keeping a lid on what they know. Pegasus Royal Guard. Commander Spitfire, the Wonderbolt's captain and high-ranking officer in Equestria's defense forces, came in with them. She strode fast, wings furled, her sharp eyes framed in stone-carved authority. The mess of flames, the twisted bodies, and the machines spitting gas in their direction, it was nothing compared to the cold fire in her golden eyes.
Standing tall, her fiery mane seemed to glow, not with heroism, but with grim purpose. "We're looking at a disaster," she ordered in clipped tones toward flocks of her soldiers, directing the guards to surround the site. "Quarter the area. Exit protocols in place immediately. Contain any party not cleared to report. No press, no outside wings." She muttered it low, barely whispered to her shoulders. Oh, whoops. The weight of what they didn't know gnawing steadily at her tight control. Her attention snapped right toward you. You're still laying half exhausted, the hacksaw just barely within reach over the clouded floor. Blood mixed with gray soot staining the cloud state. She can smell the destruction on you, her eyes narrowed dangerously. She flared her wings with deadly sharp movements, eyeing every single pony who had come out of the factory grounds, and then you. "You," she called out, not unlike before the whistle before a tornado touchdown. "You've got explaining to do." She didn't blink, barely flinched as one last single explosion in the distance sent more debris sky high, splitting the horizon further. What the buck happened? I'm gonna cut it off there. I told it to wrap it up, and it just didn't really. It wanted to keep going, but this story, at least, I'm gonna wrap up here.